everybody. My name is Rebecca Morgan, and today we are providing a research workshop series session on reliable open access drug resources. My name is Rebecca Morgan. I'm a health science librarian here at the University of Kentucky Medical Center Library. And if you would like to follow along with today's slides, you can either use this QR code or once you download it, click the links involved through the rest of the session. So today we're going to start out by discussing the importance of open access drug resources, why we should be using them, and basically why they're an important part of drug information. And I'm going to introduce you to a fairly large number of reliable and current open access drug resources. And I want to point out that today we're going to focus less on getting in the nitty-gritty of how to use each site, and we're going to focus more on identifying them so you're familiar with them, what they do, so you have them in your pocket to use in the future. Some of them are so simple they don't really need any explanation of how to use, but for the more complex ones, I've provided links to tutorials and videos on how to use them, so you can go back and learn a little more about them if you need more of an explanation in the future. So what is open access? When we talk about open access drug resources, what do we mean? Open access typically refers to research articles. So when we discuss it, when you see it in the literature, it's pretty much talking about the free, immediate online availability of research articles coupled with the right to use these articles fully in the digital environment. For today's purposes, we are going to use open access to describe any free database that is immediately available to all users online with no requirement for a subscription and no paywalled elements that might block you from accessing parts of the site. So we're going to call that open access today. And briefly, let's spend a little time discussing why open access is important. Quite simply, it removes the price tag from accessing these resources. And this supports community practitioners that are not in an academic environment where paid resources like maybe Lexidrug are provided to them. On the other hand, it also increases health info access to the general population. And as a result, we have what is hopefully a healthier, but definitely better informed population. One of the issues in dealing with some of these free issues is selecting which ones are appropriate and which ones are reliable, because there are many free or supposedly free resources available. And misinformation and disinformation does remain an issue in today's online environment. So how do you select the best drug resources? Some basic questions that you can ask yourself is, who is the creator? Is it a certain pharmaceutical company? Is it for profit? Is it the government? Is it fully open access, or is some of the content paywalled? Because then that's not truly open access. And almost most importantly is, how often is it updated? Is it staying current at the rate that I need it to stay current? The best OA drug resources come from the National Library of Medicine, which can be abbreviated as NLM, and the Food and Drug Administration, which we all know is abbreviated as FDA. And the main reason for this is because these major updates on drug shortages, drug recalls, drug approvals come from the FDA and come from the government. And so they are the most up-to-date source. If you're using a site like drugs.com, someone has to wait and see these FDA updates and then update the site, whereas on the FDA sites, they are just being updated as the updates come through. Today, we're going to talk about, as I said, a pretty high number of resources, both from the FDA and the NLM. This is a brief rundown of the ones we're going to go through one by one. We're going to spend a little more time on some, a little more time on others. But mainly, I just want you to have a rundown of what we're going to go over, and remember that if you do download the links, or I'm sorry, if you do download this presentation in the future, all the links will be available to you to peruse on your own time. So, as I said, the Food and Drug Administration is a main source of information because they are this nation's control and supervisory body for dietary supplements, prescriptions, and over-the-counter pharmaceuticals, vaccines, biopharmaceuticals, all that kind of information. And so they're the ones going through the approval process. They're the ones going through the recall process, tracking shortages, everything of that nature. And so using their sites gives you the most up-to-date information. And I'm going over about, I think, 6 of their sites, but that is just a fraction of the information they provide. So these 2 links here at the bottom will just take you to some other pages. I'll jump into one real quickly that just shows you the other types of resources the FDA has available that might be useful for you, including this one link that takes you to information for consumers, information for the industry, so regulation information, information for healthcare professionals, and it also provides information in Spanish as well. So there's a broad range of information out there from the FDA that is valuable to look in beyond what we're even discussing today. The main site provided by the FDA that I would say is most heavily used is Drugs at FDA. And this is the site that provides information about all FDA approved brand name and generic prescriptions and over the counter human drugs. So this is only a database of human pharmaceuticals. And as far as its scope of coverage, it does include most drug products approved since 1939. And many of the entries, I would say the majority of the entries, have links additionally for patient information, labels and packaging, approval letters, and other information for all drugs since 1998. And they are adding to it, so hopefully that will continue to grow in scope. When you go into drugs at FDA, it's very, very simple in terms of searching. You either just enter a drug name or browse by drug name. And if I just start searching by a drug name, it'll take you to the full drug if you get the first at least 3 letters of it. And if I click into Klonopin, it gives you a medication guide, which is basically the information packaging. It gives you all the products that are available or have been discontinued related to this drug, approval dates, letters that include labels, and again, as I said, approval letters, sometimes package inserts if available, not for everything, but for a large number of them, at least the most recent ones. And one thing to keep in mind when we go to the next slide and the next resource is one thing that's valuable about drugs at FDA is this little database section, this little table cut out right here for the drug Klonopin is basically a summary of exactly what is found in Orange Book, which is another resource we're going to discuss in a second. And that is all about therapeutic equivalence. So often you do want to go into Orange Book to look at things in a little more detail, but you can get a lot of the information about therapeutic equivalence and standards here in drugs at FDA as well. So as I said, Orange Book deals with therapeutic equivalence. So we're talking about brand names, generics, and patents. We're going to get to the Purple Book in just a second, but both of these books and the concepts behind them can be just a little bit confusing for people. So in this top right corner is a link to a YouTube playlist of drug searching videos that I made that includes, it's not limited to, but includes short videos on both the Orange Book and Purple Books that go into a little more detail than we're going to go in today. So if you have questions about it, exactly what they're used for, then I encourage you to please look at these other videos. So one thing also to remember about the Orange Books and the Purple Books is that they're essentially digitized versions of what used to actually be books. And you can still buy the Orange book in, I think, one massive volume today. I'm not sure if the Purple book is still available as an actual reference textbook, but they're essentially digitized versions of these reference manuals that come out yearly. If I go into the Orange book, you can see it looks very similar to drugs at FDA, and almost all their databases look very similar to this. You can find more information about the Orange Book that goes in great depth about it, but just be aware that you can search by the proprietary name, active ingredient, application number, or also if you want to look at the company that's manufacturing the drug, the dosage form, and the route of administration. So you can really limit down your results and search a little more in depth. Like I want clonazepam by this company. I want aspirin by Bayer specifically. You can limit your search this way. I'm just going to go back into searching Klonopin. And as you can see, this is a very similar table to what we had in drugs at FDA, but it's a little more expansive and goes into a little more detail. So what is this telling us? The main thing to know is that it is talking about therapeutic equivalence. So it is talking about the standard brand drug that was created, and then all the therapeutic equivalents or potential therapeutic equivalents of this drug that can be used as generics or alternative therapies. These codes up here can be a little confusing for the uninitiated, so let me just go over them really quickly. RS, if something is labeled RS, as this one is right here, it is the drug that must be used in bioequivalence studies standard, or it is the bioequivalence study standard. So it is the one that must be used in bioequivalence studies, and it is what all other forms are compared to. RLD is similar. It is the drug product that was approved under the FD&C Act, and so this is the standard to which generic drug applicants must demonstrate their products are also bioequivalent. So both of these are showing that the drugs that meet these standards that have entries in here are the standards in two different ways. And a lot of times there's overlap. As you can see, this one is both RLD and RS, so it is the standard in both areas, where others are just a standard in one. And then TE is showing the therapeutic equivalence. So if there's just an A code here, so if it was AA instead of AB, that would be considered a full therapeutic equivalent. As you can see, we only have ABs here. So that means that it may have actual or potential bioequivalent problems, but this was resolved through testing. So it is still marked as a therapeutic equivalent, just not, I guess, a pure one. And ABs are usually the most common thing that you see in here. And so really, when you're searching this database, you're trying to identify whether a certain drug can be used as a generic or not, or what the standard drug is. And clicking into an entry will take you to more details about the different versions of it. This is the one that we clicked into, and then you can also get patent and exclusivity information. So now let's go to the Purple Book. The Purple Book is a database of licensed biological products. So we are talking about biosimilars and interchangeable biologic products. So we're talking vaccines, stem cells, blood products. Similar to the Orange Book, it's talking about equivalence. It's talking about things that can be used for the same reason and be equivalent to each other. But instead, the difference between Orange Book and Purple Book is that Purple Book is using biological products. So, as I said, things derived from stem cells and blood products. And the searching in Purple Book is actually even more similar. You can do an advanced search, but if I even just start searching vaccine, you'll see different vaccines come up. And if I go into this one for RSV, You can see that there are no biosimilars, there are no interchangeables, and that there are two forms of the product that you can get. You can get this one, which is a vial that you draw an injection from, or you can get this one, which is a pre-filled syringe. So it's telling you the form in which these products come in, and then it also provides a product label for much more information about each resource. Those were a little complicated. The next two I'm going to show you are much more simple. So the drug recalls database. This is less of a database and more of an ongoing list of recalled medications. It only dates back to 2017, but it is updated fairly, very regularly. And it includes the full recall announcement details and often even images of the recalled products and product labels so you can verify them against anything that is in your own supply or your own personal prescribed products and make sure that it is the same thing. Drug shortages. Again, this is a similar list of current and resolved drug shortages reported to the FDA. It also includes discontinuation drugs. And if you go into the FDA drug shortages database, you can see that there are a few different categories that you can choose from. Current and resolved shortages, you can see that it says these two are resolved, these are currently in shortage. You can click into them and get a little more information about it. Discontinuations, which you can just either do a keyword search or browse alphabetically. And you can even go by therapeutic categories. So if you want to see everything that was dermatological that has been discontinued or is in shortage, you can click this, and new and updated as well. And it is extremely up to date. It is up to date as of, I believe, April 24th was the last time something was entered in here. So really, this is about as contemporaneous as you can possibly get. So why use FDA sites over something like drugs.com? Like I said, the main reason is because this information is coming from the FDA. So if you want the most up-to-date information, you really want to go to these resources in particular. Next, we're going to talk about resources from the National Library of Medicine. And the National Library of Medicine is an important resource because it is the world's largest biomedical library. You might be more familiar with clinicaltrials.gov or PubMed. These are all resources that are under the National Library of Medicine, which is itself a subdivision of the NIH. But they also have some great specific drug resources that I want to make sure we cover today. The first one, and this is one of my favorites actually, is DailyMed. And this is a real all-encompassing drug database that if you're looking for something that's a little closer to drugs.com, that kind of, hits all the different topics in once and, has interconnected topics like recalls and shortages built in, this is more the site that you want to go to. It also contains both human and animal drugs, so it is more comprehensive. And it includes labels, packaging for both human and animal drugs, and also more advanced searching. And one of the cool things about it is it's really well integrated into other NLM products, which I will show you now. So as you can see, DailyMed looks it's a little more like an advanced searchable database, and you can in fact search through multiple ways and limit to either human or animal drugs. If I search for, let's say, aspirin, you can see I get all these different variations of aspirin. There's 57 in the database, and it immediately starts by showing you the drug label. If I click into one of these, not only do I get the package photos, I can download the labels. It gives you a large section of information on warnings, ingredients and appearance, safety, related resources, but it's really the side tab that I think is the most useful part. Here are related resources, and we're actually going to talk about some of these today. if I click PubMed and open up this little tab, I can then search PubMed from here for either all citations on this specific drug or this, makeup of drug, the adverse effects of it, the therapeutic use, pharmacology, and clinical trials. I can also click clinical trials up here and get everything related to it in clinicaltrials.gov. If I want some patient information to send out about this drug, I can go to Medline Plus and read the consumer health information resource about this drug. Then you can also see that safety recalls are listed here, adverse events, and then information about breastfeeding as well. So this is a really cool interactive database that I think is very useful in the fact that you can jump to many other resources and get information, including the actual primary literature on this topic and the current clinical trials, all from this one database. PubChem is another database that is worth pointing out, especially if you're more into the research end of things. It is the world's largest collection of freely accessible chemical information. And what it does is it allows users to search chemicals by name, molecular formula, structure, and other identifiers. And you can use it to find chemical and physical properties, biological activities, safety and toxicity information, so on and so forth. It is also a way that you can get to literature citations similar to Daily Med. Or Daily Med is dealing with the prescriptions. This is dealing with the chemistry of pharmacy and just chemistry in general. And I do have a link here in the upper right corner for a more advanced PubChem tutorial because I'm really just going to highlight this briefly as opposed to go in it in any depth. So again, we have this main search bar here. You can use all these different elements, but just quite simply, if you search a drug name, this is what comes up basically, and you can find results either based on the compounds, substances, pathways, bioassays. You can link into the literature or see patents related to it. You can find similar structures, related records, and you can even get related PubMed mesh keywords if you're building an advanced literature search. So it is the most comprehensive database with regards to chemical compounds. So very helpful in that regard. LactMed might be something that you've heard of before. It is another NLM resource that itself is more of a reference book that has been put online than a true database. So it's similar to the Orange and Purple books, that it is more of a constantly updated, digitized reference book. And what you're going to get in it are concise encyclopedia-like summaries on drugs and other chemicals that breastfeeding mothers might be exposed to. And clicking into it, it's very simple. You can look by drugs or compound or chemical alphabetically. You can scroll. And as I said, it gives you a very simple encyclopedia summary of how this drug could affect lactation or breastfeeding mothers or infants. It's all cited through and provides valuable references. So this is a much more similar reference book. And there also is a little search bar for searching within this book here. You have to be careful not to search up here because this is going to search for books within the National Library of Medicine. You have to actually search the contents in this little small search box right here. Liver tox, it's almost exactly the same thing as LactMed, but it is dealing with liver injury that is attributable to prescription and non-prescription medications instead. It also includes some herbal and dietary supplements, but it is primarily focused on prescription and over-the-counter medications. And just like LactMed, you search it in the exact same way, either through this little search box or by going through alphabetically in the records. Medline Plus is different from everything else I've discussed today, and you might have remembered that I pointed it out already in my discussion about Daily Med. And what Medline Plus is it's a consumer health resource. So it's a resource for patients and non-clinicians, and it can provide detailed, easy to read summaries on drugs or really any other health topic, and it provides them in multiple languages. And the drug info is specifically provided by the American Society of Health Information Pharmacists. So it is written by pharmacists, but in a way that is easy to read for literacy levels, I believe, around the 8th grade. If you go into Medline Plus in general, you can see that there's this whole section here on drugs and supplements. And clicking into it, you can look at all of them. You can browse alphabetically. And if I just go into one of these really quickly, you can see that it includes basic warnings at the very top, as well as information about why it's prescribed, how should it be used, other uses for the medicine, so on and so forth. But this is a good detailed rundown that is good to point consumers to if they need a basic rundown of drugs and supplements. And the final one I want to talk about today is the Dietary Supplement Labeled Database, or the DSLD. And this is not actually a National Library of Medicine resource. It is from the NIH, of which the NLM is a part, but close enough. And what it does is provide the image of the package, of any label, name, and form of ingredients, the amount of dietary ingredients, and all warnings on box information of various dietary supplements. It is not all-encompassing. It is a growing database, but it is still pretty comprehensive. And as you can see, it currently has over 200,000 labels in the dietary supplement database. So if I just search for zinc, it'll show you the label of various products that are currently available or off market. You can limit your search to on market or off market if you're interested in seeing what is available and what has since been discontinued for whatever reason. And you can click into each of these to get a little more information, but primarily they're trying to create a full accounting of as many supplements as possible and all the information that are provided on the boxes or the labels themselves of each drug. Why use NLM sites? Very similar to the reason that we use them for FDA sites is that they pull from the FDA. They are also highly focused. They interconnect with each other. So in the case of Daily Med, you can get access to PubMed and clinicaltrials.gov and other databases related to it all in one without having to search other places. It's also provided by the National Library of Medicine, so it's going to be unbiased. It's not going to, trend towards promoting products from one pharmaceutical company or another. It might not be updated as quickly as the FDA sites because they are also waiting for the FDA sites or alerts to come out before they update their own information. But I have found on the whole that it is still updated more quickly than sites like drugs.com. That's it for today. I hope that maybe you learned something about some of these resources or were introduced to some that maybe you had not heard of previously. If you want more information about our research workshop series, you can click this link to access our LibGuide, or if you have any questions or would like more information, you can email the Medical Center Library at mclib@uky.edu. Thank you. And I will stick around and answer any questions that anybody might have.